The U.S. Supreme Court has delivered a seismic judgment, sending shockwaves through the nation's capital and far beyond. The decision, handed down after months of heated debate and anticipation, marks a pivotal moment in the ongoing struggle over presidential power and economic policy. In a move that stunned both supporters and critics, the court overturned President Trump's sweeping tariffs, effectively dismantling the core of the America First trade agenda that has shaped U.S. policy for years. The ruling not only challenges the authority of the executive branch, but also signals a dramatic shift in how the United States approaches global commerce. The justices ruled that the president cannot unilaterally impose broad taxes on imports by simply declaring a national emergency, a power that, according to the Constitution, belongs squarely with Congress. This landmark interpretation reasserts the legislative branch's control over trade and taxation, curbing the reach of executive orders in matters of economic consequence. The immediate impact is staggering. Experts estimate up to $100 billion in refunds could be owed to importers, potentially flooding the market with new capital. This could trigger a major shift in U.S. economic policy, affecting everything from corporate profits to consumer prices. For everyday Americans, the ruling may translate into lower prices on imported goods from electronics to groceries. It also puts intense pressure on the administration to deliver on promises of rebate checks, as families across the country look for relief from years of rising costs. The fallout will be swift and far-reaching. Companies are expected to file for refunds en masse, while diplomats scramble to renegotiate trade deals that have been upended overnight. The business community is bracing for uncertainty, even as some celebrate the prospect of renewed global competition. Meanwhile, a renewed debate is erupting over the balance of power in Washington. Lawmakers, legal scholars, and the public are all questioning how much authority any president should wield, and what checks and balances are truly necessary to protect democracy. This historic decision will define the economic landscape for years to come, setting a precedent that will influence not only trade policy, but the very nature of American governance. As the dust settles, all eyes remain on Washington, waiting to see what comes next. To understand the Supreme Court's decision, let's break down the tariffs and why President Trump imposed them in 2025. Tariffs are taxes on imported goods, often used to protect domestic industries or penalize unfair trade. Trump's America First approach reversed decades of free trade, arguing that persistent trade deficits threatened U.S. security and stability. The administration used the IEEPA, a 1977 law meant for emergencies, to justify broad tariffs, an unprecedented move. These tariffs, imposed in February, were sweeping, affecting thousands of products from nearly every country. Critics warned of higher prices and global retaliation, while supporters saw it as a bold correction. This legal gamble set the stage for the Supreme Court showdown. In 2025, the Trump administration introduced a sweeping new tariff policy built on two main pillars: trafficking tariffs and reciprocal tariffs. These measures marked a dramatic shift in U.S. trade strategy, signaling a more aggressive approach to both economic and security concerns. Trafficking tariffs specifically targeted Canada, Mexico, and China. The stated goal was to pressure these countries to crack down on the flow of fentanyl and other illicit drugs into the United States. Customs inspections intensified at borders, and law enforcement ramped up efforts to intercept illegal shipments. These tariffs were not just about trade, they were also about sending a message on national security and public health. The second pillar, reciprocal tariffs, imposed a baseline 10% duty on nearly all imports, regardless of origin. For countries with significant trade surpluses against the U.S., the rates were even higher. The administration argued this was about fairness. If a country charged high tariffs on American goods, the U.S. would match or exceed those rates in return. Even close allies like Canada and the European Union were not spared. They suddenly faced steep new duties, which strained long-standing relationships and forced both sides into urgent, high-stakes negotiations. The atmosphere at international trade summits grew tense as partners scrambled to respond. The European Union in particular was caught off guard. Despite having recently removed its own tariffs on U.S. goods in an effort to improve relations, the EU was hit with a 15% U.S. tariff. European leaders voiced their frustration at press conferences, calling the move unfair and counterproductive. The impact rippled far beyond North America and Europe. Across Asia, South America, and Africa, the new tariffs raised the cost of doing business with the U.S., and triggered a wave of retaliatory measures. Countries scrambled to protect their own industries, and global supply chains were thrown into disarray. American exporters, from factory workers to farmers, suddenly found themselves facing new barriers abroad. Retaliatory tariffs hit U.S. products, from cars to soybeans, making it harder to compete in global markets. The uncertainty left businesses and workers anxious about the future. Economic policy and foreign policy became deeply entangled, as trade disputes spilled over into broader diplomatic challenges. Negotiations grew more complex, and alliances were tested in ways not seen in decades. The result was a world trading system thrown into chaos. Markets plunged, uncertainty soared, and the rules of global commerce were suddenly up for grabs. Legal challenges erupted almost immediately as soon as the tariffs were announced, sparking a wave of controversy. Businesses and lawmakers argued that the president had overstepped his authority, since only Congress can officially levy taxes under the Constitution. The Court of International Trade and the Federal Circuit both ruled against the administration, finding the IEEPA didn't authorize such sweeping tariffs or executive action. The Supreme Court took up the case, recognizing its massive economic stakes and the far-reaching consequences for the country. The justices weren't judging the wisdom or effectiveness of tariffs, but whether the president had the legal right to impose them in this way. The nation and the world waited anxiously for a decision that would define the limits of presidential power for generations. The answer would ultimately reshape the future of U.S. trade policy and international economic relations. The Supreme Court's ruling was a decisive rejection of Trump's legal argument. The majority found that the IEEPA does not let the president impose broad tariffs as taxes. Only Congress can do that. The court drew a clear line. Regulating trade is not the same as taxing it. This means the tariffs are void from the start, opening the door for companies to claim refunds. For Trump, it's a major defeat, forcing him to seek other, more limited legal tools for trade action. The decision sets a powerful precedent, sharply limiting future presidents' ability to use emergency powers for sweeping economic changes. The ruling reinforces the constitutional checks and balances, even in times of crisis. The era of unilateral tariff power is over. The immediate impact, up to $100 billion in tariff refunds, are now owed to importers across the country. This staggering sum represents years of accumulated fees, and for many companies, it's a windfall that could reshape their balance sheets overnight. The process of distributing these refunds is complex, involving thousands of claims and a mountain of paperwork, but the financial stakes are too high for anyone to sit on the sidelines. Businesses, from global giants to neighborhood shops, are racing to claim their money back, some even selling their rights to refunds for quick cash. For small businesses, these refunds could mean survival, helping them pay overdue bills or invest in growth. For larger corporations, it's a chance to boost profits or reinvest in new projects. The rush to file claims has created a new market for legal and financial services, as experts help companies navigate the maze of regulations and deadlines. For everyday Americans, the spotlight is on possible rebate checks, with proposals for $2,000 per household gaining traction in Congress. These direct payments could provide much-needed relief for families still feeling the pinch of high prices. The idea is to put money directly into people's pockets, giving them the freedom to spend, save, or pay down debt as they see fit. If approved, this could turn a failed policy into a popular stimulus, boosting consumer spending and easing the burden of high prices. Retailers and restaurants are already preparing for a surge in demand, hoping that extra cash will bring shoppers back through their doors. Economists predict that this wave of spending could help jumpstart the recovery, especially for sectors hit hardest by the trade war. With tariffs gone, prices on goods like electronics, clothing, and household items should fall, though the transition may be bumpy. Some retailers may lower prices quickly to attract customers, while others could take longer to adjust. Consumers can expect to see more sales and discounts as competition heats up, making everyday purchases a little more affordable. But not everyone will benefit equally. Domestic industries that once thrived under tariff protection now face renewed competition from abroad. Factories that expanded during the trade war may need to adapt or risk downsizing. Workers in these sectors could face uncertainty as companies adjust to the new reality. Meanwhile, the global trade environment remains unsettled, as retaliatory tariffs from other countries may linger. Exporters are watching closely, hoping for a swift resolution that will reopen foreign markets and restore lost business. The path forward is uncertain, and international negotiations will play a crucial role in shaping the outcome. Restoring stable trade relationships will require careful diplomacy, trust building, and a willingness to compromise. Leaders from around the world are meeting to hammer out new agreements, aiming to prevent future trade wars and ensure a more predictable environment for businesses and consumers alike. The economic reset is just beginning, and its effects will ripple through every corner of the economy. As the dust settles, Americans and businesses alike will be watching closely to see what comes next. The tariff debate is more polarized than ever, with emotions running high on both sides of the issue. Supporters call the tariffs a bold defense of American jobs and a necessary response to unfair trade, blaming the court for undermining presidential power and weakening America's ability to act decisively. They argue tariffs forced new trade talks and concessions from rivals, reshaping global economic relationships in America's favor. Critics say tariffs were a reckless tax on Americans, raising prices, hurting small businesses and straining family budgets across the country. They hail the court's ruling as a victory for the rule of law, economic sanity, and a check on executive overreach. For critics, this is a return to constitutional order and a more stable, rules-based trading system that benefits everyone. The legacy of Trump's tariffs will fuel debate and shape political arguments for years to come. The Supreme Court's decision opens a new chapter for U.S. trade. Diplomacy will take center stage, with talks to repair strained ties with allies like Canada and the EU. Undoing the web of tariffs and retaliation will be complex and slow. The administration must now use more targeted, legally sound tools to address trade imbalances and China's practices. Americans will watch for rebate checks and falling prices, but also for impacts on jobs and industries. The political fight over America's economic future is just beginning. Will the U.S. return to free trade leadership or double down on protectionism by other means? One thing is clear. Today's ruling is just the start of a new debate shaping the future of global commerce.